The year is 2045. Earth has been submerged in such a winter for decades as a result of weather-controlling machines meant to reverse climate change working a little too well before they shut down. As a result, the planet's surface is a frozen wasteland covered in a never-ending global snowstorm, forcing the remnants of humanity to seek refuge underground. The Earth's skies have been perpetually covered by snow clouds that have prevented direct sunlight from reaching the surface for decades, to the point that no one remembers what sunlight feels like. The once thriving world above is now an endless frozen wasteland where survival is a daily battle. Civilization clings to life in underground colonies, where the scarcity of food, medicine, and other essentials makes every day a fight for existence. One such place is Colony 7, a small outpost of survivors struggling to maintain order and humanity amidst the harsh conditions. Colony 7 is led by Briggs, a former soldier who gathered a few dozen people to survive the Second Ice Age in an underground colony, and struggles to keep his well-intentioned extremist second-in-command in line while working toward goals that will help their long-term survival. However, survival comes with its own set of brutal choices. With food supplies dwindling and medical resources almost non-existent, even a common illness like the flu can turn deadly. After a flu epidemic claims 20 lives in the colony, Briggs enforces a strict system. Those who fall ill are placed in quarantine for 40 days. If they do not recover, they are faced with a formidable choice. Anyone who falls ill and doesn't recover has two choices: take a bullet or walk into the snow, never to return. Not everyone agrees with Briggs' harsh approach. When Hal, a man who never fully recovers from the flu, chooses exile over execution, Mason refuses to honor the choice.
Not today.
He doesn't even give them the dignity of walking away. Sam, a younger and more idealistic member of the colony, protests, arguing that Hal should be allowed to leave as the rules dictate. But Mason remains unconvinced. He believes that in the end,
He'll just come back. They always do.
the exiled will only grow desperate and return begging for a bullet. One less mouth to feed means better chances for those who remain. As tensions rise within the colony, another crisis emerges. An SOS signal from Colony 5 begins transmitting 2 days after they had previously announced that their radio would be shut off for repairs. The sudden distress call is alarming. Briggs calls a meeting to discuss their next course of action, reprimanding Mason for his actions, but ultimately prioritizing the emergency at hand.
You'd think with someone you served with, you'd give him a little more respect.
Mason and Briggs were soldiers who deserted a unit that was doing nothing to feed or shelter civilians during the early months of the Ice Age. Sam's girlfriend, Kai, is one of the few who still holds onto hope for the future. She keeps seeds locked away, dreaming of a day when the Earth's ice might melt somehow.
Somewhere someone is working on a fix, and when there's a thaw, I'm gonna find it.
And humans can rebuild. As the meeting is about to begin, it becomes clear that sickness has started to spread once again. 2 people try to hide their symptoms, and one man desperately attempts to keep his ailing wife quiet, but their fate is already sealed. During the meeting, Briggs addresses the colony's worsening situation and brings up their agreement with Colony 5, which includes checking in if trouble arises. However, Mason, solely focused on Colony 7's survival, sees no reason to honor the deal.
We need to take care of our own, Briggs.
We made a pact with Colony 5, and we need to look after each other.
Yes, we did, and we're going. End of discussion.
Briggs makes his decision. He will go to Colony 5 to investigate and calls for 2 volunteers to join him. Dex, one of the sick people. He's willing to go on the trip to Colony 5, but Sam insists on going in his place in case Colony 7's turbines break down and need Dex to fix them. Graydon, relatively inexperienced but eager young man, also volunteers. Mason, however, argues that bringing more people into Colony 5 could make their already dire situation even worse. As the debate rages on, another resident an unmistakable sign of infection. Panic spreads, and the meeting is cut short as she and her husband are placed in quarantine. Before leaving, Briggs appoints Kai as acting leader in his absence. Sam, Briggs, and Graydon depart on their dangerous journey across the icy wasteland. Both the futuristic weather machines and the modern city's skylines, river-spanning bridges, and wrecked vehicles are still visible on the Earth's surface, preserved in the ice and cold. a frozen wasteland dotted with the ruins of a civilization that recklessly brought about its own destruction. Humans had tried to reverse the effects of global warming with towering weather control structures, but their efforts only accelerated the planet's descent into an eternal winter, which has killed pretty much everything on the surface. The trio moves cautiously, crossing a risky bridge, one made of concrete and steel girders, but falling apart after years of harsh weather and neglect. At one point, they find an abandoned truck with 2 frozen corpses. A man who seemingly shot his companion in despair before succumbing to the cold himself. They rest inside a wrecked emergency helicopter and discover a chilling message written on the frosted window. When they finally reach Colony 5, they spot a blood trail outside. Noticing that it leads into the dark chimney, Graydon nervously suggests staying on the surface, but the others force him to come along. The journey from Colony 7 to Colony 5 takes at least a day, plus another before they even set out. Yet, despite the passage of time, the blood splattered everywhere remains fresh, neither dried nor frozen. Needless to say, real blood doesn't behave that way. Eventually, they come across a locked steel door.
This door's taken a lot of punishment.
Fortunately, Sam manages to get it open. Inside they found a man named Leland, who frantically insisted on keeping the doors shut.
The door! Lock the door!
Terrified of what lurks beyond. Leland warns them of an unspeakable horror. The colony was not wiped out by disease or starvation, but by something far worse.
Is anyone else alive?
Define alive.
He reveals a crucial discovery. One appears on a video feed. He managed to fix one of the weather machines that caused the freeze to bring about a thaw in the surrounding icy terrain. But his group needs seeds to grow food and start over. Briggs takes note of the location, though the details remain unclear. Colony 5 sent a team to investigate the source, but unfortunately, they did not find the location.
But somebody found them. And followed them right back here.
Suddenly, a piercing scream echoes from outside. Briggs decides to return to Colony 7 and gather any useful supplies. However, Leland refuses to join them or even leave the room.
You don't understand, it's safe behind this door!
The only survivor from Colony 5 insists on locking himself up inside of a heavily reinforced room until he starves to death rather than face what's outside the door, and forces the Colony 7 team out after giving them some exposition on the oasis that another group of colonists made. Pity he didn't tell them much about what followed them right back, though. On their way back, they hear a banging noise. As they explore the ruined settlement and follow the disturbing sound, they come across a terrifying scene that shocks them to their core: cannibal larder. What Briggs's group walks right into when they investigate the banging noise at Colony 5. A group of feral, cannibalistic survivors feasting on human remains. In the cannibal larder, there's a pile of dismembered bodies, with a hand twitching as if a victim is still alive. The cannibals are instantly recognizable as villains by their razor-sharp, file-pointed teeth. The butcher, a monstrous figure wielding a massive blade, spots them and runs for a kill. And all hell breaks loose. To their horror, some of the cannibals had been hiding among them asleep. These savages are so far gone that they attack anything edible in sight without hesitation, completely disregarding their own well-being or survival. No matter how many fall, they never retreat. Too bad Leland didn't warn them much about the cannibals. A ruthless, post-apocalyptic bandit tribe that preys on any survivors they find. These creatures have lost all traces of humanity. They no longer speak beyond the occasional word, instead shrieking and snarling like wild beasts. The three attempt to escape. Graydon gets too far ahead of the others while they're fleeing the cannibals and finally gets himself killed. When he runs away blindly, without waiting for the others. Briggs and Sam are forced to leave him behind as they flee for their lives as the cannibals pursue them relentlessly. Upon reaching the top, Briggs immediately destroyed the chimney to prevent the cannibals from following them. With that done, they began their journey back to Colony 7, stopping for the night at the wrecked emergency helicopter once again. That night, Briggs made a confession. He and Mason had been part of the military before its complete collapse. They had abandoned a stadium-turned-refugee center when it descended into a brutal military dictatorship. As food shortages worsened in the wake of the glacial apocalypse, Those in power resorted to increasingly desperate and ruthless measures to survive.
It was the hunger. People couldn't take it. It just drove them mad.
Sam glanced back toward the path they had taken that morning and realized, with a jolt of fear, that they were still being followed and were closing in fast. With no time to spare, Sam and Briggs sprinted to the bridge, determined to destroy the only link between the two colonies. They planted the dynamite, but when Briggs tried to light the fuse, it didn't light easily and blew out. He had no choice but to go back and try again. And it doesn't light easily the second time either. In the end, Briggs made the ultimate sacrifice, detonating the explosives himself to ensure the bridge was destroyed. The cannibals were forced to take the long way around, but not before Briggs took several of them down with him. With the cannibal tribe still on his trail, Sam has no choice but to return to Colony 7 and deliver the crucial news about a colony that has a working weather machine, and eventually makes it back. Upon arrival, he finds a grim scene. Mason is outside, already executing those he suspects of carrying the disease. He has completely abandoned Briggs' quarantine protocol, killing without testing. Kai strongly opposes this brutal approach.
You know the test is bullshit. The delay just puts us all at risk.
Exhausted and frostbitten, Sam stumbles into the colony, where Kai, who happens to be outside, rushes to help him. But before she can do much, Mason has her restrained. Kai is taken captive after attempting to stand against Mason's rule. Sam wakes up only to find that Mason has taken over as leader and is enforcing even harsher rules.
Now on, rations will be cut in half. Anyone showing signs of sickness will be tested immediately.
Sam tells Mason and the others what happened to Colony 5.
They slaughtered everybody for food.
And that the other colony has fertile soil and sunlight but no seeds, which Colony 7 has. Mason didn't believe his story and walked out. After being rescued, Sam and Kai regroup and use Kai's laptop to locate the newly thawed land. Hope is within reach. However, before they can act, they stop by Mason. Once news of Briggs' death reaches Colony 7, Mason tries to take charge. The cannibals quickly eliminate that option. Realizing the true severity of the situation, Mason finally fights alongside Sam. The survivors gather at the entrance, preparing for the cannibals to break through. However, they soon discover the cannibals have used the air vents to bypass the defended door. The same vents the survivors had planned to use as an escape route to the surface. In the struggle, Mason is fatally wounded when one of them strikes him from behind. The residents of Colony 7 fight desperately, but they are both outnumbered and overpowered. As the battle rages on, Mason abandons them, retreating to a safe room where the others have taken refuge. Sam calls for a retreat, but Graydon's father refuses to back down, seeking revenge for his son. However, his fight is short-lived. He is ultimately defeated by the cannibal leader. The cannibal tribe refuses to stop their pursuit, even if chasing them is killing them off quickly. Perhaps their relentlessness is understandable. With no other source of food, they have nothing to lose. Sam and Kai nearly reach the front door, only for it to suddenly slam shut, locked by Mason. Fortunately, one of the survivors inside strikes Mason over the head, knocking him down and opening the door for Sam and Kai. Mason insists they stay and fight, but Sam has a better plan. With no other choice, and too badly wounded to escape, Mason knows he won't survive outside. Sam leaves him a pistol, and for a moment, Mason raises it as if to shoot him. Sam coldly reminds him that
You're gonna need every bullet.
Against the cannibals who are breaking through the door. As the horde bursts in, Mason makes his final move. He fires at a propane tank, triggering a massive explosion that wipes out nearly all of the cannibals, except their leader. The blast hurls Sam into the air vent passage, where he now faces the cannibal leader in a brutal, one-on-one fight. Sam is tossed around and battered mercilessly. The leader is stronger, faster, and more savage than the rest. And unlike his mindless tribe, he speaks, but only a single word. Sam gains the upper hand against the cannibal leader, striking him down with an iron bar to end the fight. However, the leader proves to be both resilient and cunning, playing dead in an attempt to catch Sam off guard. Realizing this, Sam knows he must find another way to make sure he's finished for good. The cannibal tribe is completely wiped out, and Colony 7 learns that another group has managed to repair part of the weather control machines, creating an oasis. They now have the coordinates to reach it. However, the victory comes at a heavy cost. Colony 7 lies in ruins. Only a handful of survivors remain, along with a single can of seeds salvaged from an entire warehouse. With no other choice, they must reach the oasis or perish. Meanwhile, Sam, hardened by everything he has endured, delivers a final, grim reflection. His last words reveal his descent into misanthropy as he states the only rule that matters now.
Survive.